Hey everybody, we are going to go over chapters 4 and 5 of Atomic Habits today. If you haven't watched the previous ones, I suggest you do because they kind of build upon each other. Also, as I always say, start with the book too. It's an excellent read. This is just a synopsis of what I've understood from it and gotten out of it. Let's jump right in. Chapter 4 starts off talking about how our brain perceives constant cues and turns them into patterns. It's how we predict things before they happen. It's not like we can put our finger on it, but events happen and we pretty much can see what's going to happen. An example he gives is there is a paramedic that goes to a family dinner and sees the father-in-law and looks at him and says, "You don't look good. We need to get you to the hospital." And he's like, "Well, what's wrong?" And she said, "Something's going on. I'm not exactly sure." They get him to the hospital and turns out he had a very large artery blockage. She had been a paramedic for 10 plus years and had just learned the signs, the subtle signs of what it looks like to have a blockage. These things are things that we learn over time. Seeing repetitive things happen, we can kind of predict the future. It's how our body and our mind creates habits. So this is how we learn habits. This is how our body develops habits, by constant repetition of events or cues up to an event. Mine, watching my mom eat when she was stressed, chocolate, boom. After years of seeing it and witnessing it, my brain discovered, okay, great habit. You're stressed. Food will help. Go eat it. Which means I spent about the past 20 years binge eating, except last year. That is the genesis of how our habits happen, through repetitive cues over time. This is one of the most surprising insights about our habits. You don't need to be aware of the cue for a habit to begin. You can notice an opportunity and take action without dictating conscious attention to it. This is what makes habits useful. It's also what makes them dangerous. As habits form, your actions come under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. You fall into old patterns before you realize what's happening. Unless someone points it out, you may not notice that you cover your mouth with your hand when you laugh, that you apologize before asking a question, or that you have a habit of finishing other people's sentences. And the more you repeat these patterns, the less likely you will become to question what you're doing and why you're doing it. The reason we need to be aware of our habits is how can we change them if we aren't aware of them? James Clear suggests doing something called a habit scorecard. This is pretty much what all chapter 4 is about, is taking and understanding your habits. What you do is you literally write down from the time you wake up in the morning what tasks you do. Wake up, turn the alarm off, get out of bed, walk to the bathroom, brush your teeth, brush your hair. Get as finite as possible about the habits you complete throughout the day. Then, afterwards, you look and assess each habit. Is it neutral? Is it effective? Is it ineffective? And what I mean by that is, does it help you get to be the person you want to be? Is it propelling you forward towards your goals in life? Or does it hold you back? Something like looking at the phone first thing in the morning, right before you get out of bed. Is that effective or ineffective? Well, if you're getting on social media or checking your email when it's unnecessary, wasting time, then I would say it's considered ineffective habit. By doing this habit scorecard, it allows us to do other things like implement changes. We have to be aware before we can actually make a change. If you don't know you're doing the habit or aren't aware of it because it's so automated, how can we make any improvements? Chapter 5 is the best way to start a new habit. And this is where the book really gets into things you can actually implement other than just observations to make big changes. The first thing he suggests is implementation intentions. You state when and where you're going to complete a task, whatever it is. I'm going to do X at X place and time. Stating it, I think, is important, but also I personally think writing it down, because you bring it to fruition. You give it some physicalness, that it's no longer just words spoken that disappear. It is literally written on a piece of paper to remind you this is what you actually said. It's very important to be very precise in this. How many times have we in our lives said, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to do XYZ, and then XYZ never happens. It's too imprecise. It's not specific enough. It gives us too much wiggle room to do it next year or 10 years down the road or never at all. I'm going to exercise on Wednesday at 8 a.m. at the YMCA. Specific time, location, what I'm going to do. And don't forget, write it down. I happen to use a scheduler, paper, and that helps me immensely. I write down what I'm going to do, what day, and we have an implemented plan of what time we're going to do it. The more precise you are, the more you have to think about it, think when you can do it. Like saying I'm going to go to the gym at 11 in the morning when that's in the middle of the workday, well, that's not feasible. Be precise in your language and your intent when you're making these plans. The second tool to use is called habit stacking. This is when you take a habit that you do daily and you attach a new habit that you want to create to it. You pair them together. An example would be, I get out of bed and immediately go brush my teeth. Well, getting out of bed in the morning means I brush my teeth. They're paired together. If I brush my teeth, then I immediately wash my hands. They're paired together. Stacking habits and inserting a new habit that I want to build is important. Something Scott and I recently did is we normally got up in the morning and went and did our morning mile with the girls. But now I'm doing getting up in the morning, doing the gym, then the morning mile. I inserted the gym right before the morning mile because I enjoy doing the morning mile. It has become a very ingrained habit, so it's easy to do. And I want to be more consistent with the gym, so boom, there we go. What you're going to do to habit stack is identify the current habit done daily and stack a new behavior on top. After I do blank, I will do blank. Or before, you have to decide where you're going to put it. Again, write these things down. If these are new habits and it's something you truly want to achieve, I'm going to do the gym before I do my morning mile. The key is to tie the desired behavior to something you do daily, and you want to pair things that work well together. This is also where being precise is important. If you have a meeting every day at noontime, you obviously do not want to pair the gym with it because you're at work. You can't go to the gym. Think very intently about where you can put these habits to make them succeed. If you place a habit in a bad place, it's not going to stick. It's not going to succeed for you. You can also use this to help set simple rules. When I see stairs, I'm going to take them instead of the elevator. When I make my plate of food, I'm going to fill it with just meat or veggies if you're keto or ketovore. These kinds of things. Be intentional in what you decide to do. To summarize all of this, be intentional with your habit changes. Use the implementation intention, time, location, specifics with it, and then use habit stacking on top of that to pair a very consistent habit with one you desire to be. I appreciate you guys so very much. We will cover chapter 6 and maybe 7 next week. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. Chapter 4 talks about how repetition. So, stop saying